You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications button so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live.
First night on the run, we did 70 kilometres, about 50 miles, and we were carrying our belt kits, which was about £50. I burned my feet because we were really hammering it. So the blisters then got infected. I was losing weight rapidly every day. You're lying there just friggin' freezing and no sleep. And then at night, I could start moving, and two guys marched me out into a car. They didn't tell me where they were taking me or anything. And they took me out to the middle of the desert, and there was a pre-arranged RV with a secret police. And that's when this guy put the gun to my head. I ended up in a hospital in London, and because I drank some chemicals, and they think the chemicals have done something to me, because I get this patch and it used to come up on my forehead, but it travels around my body. And the people that did the tests on me, typical of the army, they said, we didn't find anything. And as I was leaving, they said, do you have any family? I went, yeah, I've got a daughter. And he said, are you thinking about having any other children? And I went, yeah. He went, I wouldn't. And then I was like, why not? He went, we don't know what you've got. And my daughter was targeted. She had 2 policemen on her doorstep for 2 years.
Why?
There was a team of guys that were going to come along, on video and probably take her head off. And that was Scotland Yard anti-terror branch that cracked it, got it in. I was in America, in my house in America, and I got a phone call, and I thought they were going to tell me that there's another, following me. And it wasn't. It said, your daughter's being green-lit.
Boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got SAS soldier and author, Chris Ryan.
How are you doing?
Chrissy boy, how are you?
Not too bad. After that walk from the wrong station. Yeah.
First and foremost, thanks for coming on the show.
No.
We'll promote your new book straight away, but you're an author of 74 books, so I would be here all day if I was to promote all them. But yeah. Chris Ryan, Manhunter, this is a new one. What's this about, Chris?
Well, it's basically last year when I started to write it, as you've said, 74 books. I wanted to do something that was different, and I just felt, I thought back to when I was a kid and the spaghetti movies and the concept of that, and I just thought, right, I'm going to write a book, but it's going to have the best battle scene ever at the end, where it's right down to the last bullet. And some of my friends up in Newcastle, they're high level organized crime, so you see that side of life, and how they become legitimized and then become property dealers, have businesses and stuff like that. So it all starts off, say, modern day in London, and then moves into Africa. And as the story pans out, the British government has interest in a fictitious part of the continent, and basically it's mineral rights. And now this is very close to fact. And at the end, there's a massive firefight. And like I say, I won awards through the writing world for that firefight. And it came down to a few firefights that actually happened, one being in Tora Bora, where the guys were like fixing bayonets. I've been in quite a few firefights where you're down to your last magazine and you think, well, I'm going to be fucked here. And just something about the regiment that seemed to pull that like rabbit out the hat at the last minute. And there's countless other actions that they carried out. Probably the most famous one was in Mirbat, where there was a bunch of guys at a fort, and they were fighting off 250 rebels. There's only about 8 of them. One guy manned a 25-pounder, which usually takes 5 guys to operate. He was doing it by himself. He got his jaw shot off. He wrapped a rag around his face, carried on firing it. The other guys were getting shot and wounded, and they overcame 250 guys. So it's in that spirit, this story.
Where can people buy your books, first of all?
Well, obviously, they can order it from any good independent or Amazon. Any bookseller will hold it. But Amazon's the quickest way. But I would say support your independents. Every town, village should have one. And then, online.
Good. I've watched many of your videos. Some fucking fascinating stories in there. Like, you break the world record for, well, it's not even a world record, it's just a mad record actually. You are the longest escape in history. You walked nearly 200 miles, 7 days, 8 nights kind of thing, through the desert, and you survived. Like, it's a mad story, but we'll touch on all that. But firstly, I always like to go back to the start for my guests, where you grew up and how it all began.
Well, I was born in a place called Consett, which my parents, my father was in the building trade. We didn't have a pot to piss in. I would say we were in a loving environment, but very poor. No holidays or anything like that. Clothes were always like hand downs. But back in them days, it was before computers, the internet or anything. So, I'd spend my time outside. My father showed me how to catch, say, rabbits, birds and stuff like that to eat and stuff. So I spent a lot of time just running around the moors around the northeast. I've got two brothers. One, he didn't want anything to do with the army. He's got a garage. He does his own thing. Another brother who's still in the parachute regiment, he got commissioned and, he's quite high up in the rank side. All I wanted to do was travel, and I squandered my school life. I was a product of when schools went from secondary schools to grammar schools into comprehensive, and it was a bad period of time because the grammar school teachers hated the secondary modern teachers, and they just didn't get on. Well, I used that discord so I could sit in a class of 30. Keep my head down and nobody would ask me a question, and I was just happy. And I'd be looking out thinking that the best way for me to do anything or to fulfill my dreams was to join the army. And in them days we had bases in Germany, all around the world, and I thought I'd get to see places. Now I left, joined the army, and the first thing I realized is I'd squandered my education. And within the army, to get rank, you have to go through the educational process. So again, the difference being in the army, you can't just fuck somebody off. And if you don't work, you're not going to get promoted. And chances are, being in the SAS, you're going to get kicked out. Now, several things happened. I'd been in the SAS for I think 2 or 3 years, and I was picked to be sent off to go to Germany to do the German Alpine Guides course, which is it's a 2-year course, and you have to be able to speak German, write German, read German. You're going to wear a German uniform, and everything is in German. So they sent me down to Beaconsfield, which has the British Army Language Lab. I was put into a class with colonels and other high-ranking officers who were getting ready to go out to Germany to take over their regiments, and they'd spent loads of time in Germany, so their German was really, at a high level. I got in there, and I was like, I can't keep up. So I phoned my sergeant major up in Hereford, and I said, "Here, listen, it might be better if you send somebody else up to do this course, because I'm finding this language really hard." And he went, "If you don't pass, don't come back," and just put the phone down on me. And I was like, fucking hell. So thankfully, the educational officer, he'd been an ex-teacher. I said, "What? I'm having problems here." He said, "Yes, because your English grammar is that of a 3-year-old. So he said, "If you want," he said, "and it's not going to be easy. You can, after 6 o'clock, after work, you can come to the house. My wife and I will run you through English grammar. It'll be up to about 11, 12 o'clock. We'll set you, homework." So I was living in the block in Beaconsfield, and I think I was running on about 2 or 3 hours per day. It was the hardest I've ever worked mentally, but I passed that language course. Then I went on to go over to Germany and pass the Alpine Guides course, which again it's the highest level of any mountaineering course, because again you're a guide. You have to know, the makeup of weather, the makeup of snow, prediction, everything else. That's before you even strap a set of skis on, or a climbing harness. It's rescues, working with helicopters in the mountains, everything. So it was a very fulfilling course. But from a mental side, I knew if I set my mind to something, I could do it. I'd just been a lazy bastard when I was at school, and the teachers didn't give a shit. So this is something we can go on to later on. I've got a passion about my children's books. And whenever I go into a school and I meet a kid 14 to 16, I basically see myself when he says he's never read a book and he can't read. And I'm in a privileged position, so I try to focus that and promote reading within, the age groups of, say, 12 to 16. And push kids, because when they come out now, if they can't read, they haven't got a cat in hell's chance, unless they've got a silver spoon sticking out, the mouth. So all of this writing malarkey and my background in the SAS changed my life and changed my thought process. It wasn't just about, bringing out bestsellers that have been made into TV, long-running TV series. It's deeper than that. You can actually help young kids from deprived areas and get them to focus, because a lot of young kids, when they're in the classroom and if they come from a really shitty area, people are looking down at them. They know that you haven't got any money, and they're stigmatized. They know there's no books in the house, and they can just cast them off. And it's like, no, screw that. Every kid deserves a chance.
Yeah, definitely. So you joined the army at 16?
I joined. What happened was I was going to join as a junior soldier, and I got jaundice. So my entry into the military was halted for a year. And once I got over that, well, during that period, my cousin, he was in the territorial SAS, and he said to me, just come up there. And he said, you can do selection when you're old enough, and crack on. Now, this is before the embassy, anything. Nobody really knew we had an SAS unless you were in the military. So I joined that, and it was probably a mistake. I spent too long there. I was there for 4 years. And then what I had to do is apply to join the parachute regiment, and then from the parachute regiment, join to SAS.
And how long did it take to join the SAS?
Well, it's a 6-month process, and I'm lucky because my last 2 years spent in the regiment, after spending 10, I was an instructor running SAS selection. So I've seen selection from both sides of the fence. Like I say, it's a 6-month process. It's broken down into segments. And it's nothing like that shite that's on TV, I can tell you now. During that six months process, you'll never get an instructor scream at you, shout at you, or try to motivate you. The first phase is what they call the hills phase. This is where we take the soldiers up as individuals onto the Brecon Beacons, and their set marches, like walks, they get longer, the weight they're carrying gets heavier, but they're always by themselves. And there's loads of different routes, so they can't follow one another. So after that period, there's test week, which is a set of set marches, ending in a 65k march called long drag. The successful guys after that have proven that they can push themselves under arduous conditions. The next thing is we then take them to the jungle for 5 to 6 weeks. But this time we put them into patrols, and we're looking at them as, are they a team player? Can they mix with 5 other strangers and come to this unit? And this, as an instructor, this is where you start seeing to guys' souls, because the jungle is actually harder than the hills phase, because it's a hostile environment. As soon as you get under the canopy, it's a primary jungle. It's hot. You're either walking uphill or downhill. You're always soaking, whether it's crossing rivers or just sweating. You're carrying heavy loads, you're under a lot of pressure, and everything in there wants to either bury its head into you, bite you, or scratch you. So a lot of guys get in there and they become claustrophobic, and they can't think about the tasks at hand. They just see this green curtain in front of them. So you could be here, just looks exactly the same. You walk all day and you get maybe 4 or 5 Ks over there. You're knackered and it looks exactly the same. And everything is twice as hard in the jungle. You have to be very careful with your own personal admin. If you don't look after yourself, your body starts falling to pieces. So during that period, we've only probably gone into the jungle with 45 guys, and we started on the hills with 200. You know, half of these guys are going to stick their hand up and say it's not for me. Some of them that don't, you know, they're not going to pass. So, you know, you're always making notes. And I used to be fair as an instructor in under the trees. If I had a certain individual and I wasn't sure, what I would do is get him moved into another patrol so somebody else could look at him, just to make sure it wasn't a personality, problem. Because we all have friends, or we all know people, but you don't like them, and there's you know, for no reason, and you just think, I'll just double check on this kid. The next phase after that is combat survival. Again, we get the guys and we teach them all the things they need to know in terms of survival and how to conduct themselves after capture. That's resistance to interrogation and various things. Next phase after that is continuation training. So this is where now we've got to teach soldiers who are used to carrying a weapon in a uniform how to carry a weapon in civil clothes, and then, say, walk in your neighborhood or my neighborhood and not stand out, how to blend in and to be a grey man whilst, you know, they're on the radio, they're following somebody. And that came from, say, like a Northern Ireland type of scenario. Now they do other scenarios that are more fitting, like working in London, maybe following a terrorist cell, to know that they've got to get in close to, you know, put one into their head. Other technical equipment now, listening devices, drones, other various kit. So at the end, you know, it's 6 months, and you're usually left with anything from 5 to 12 guys. And they're then sent off to one of the 4 squadrons, and basically you're the new guy in the squadron, but you have to be capable enough to fit in, as in, you know what the score is. A good friend of my brother's, he passed into the regiment, and B Squadron was up in Afghanistan, but up country. And this lad, he was flown out to join the squadron, but he was at Basra. Then he had a 2-day road journey to get to the squadron, and he had a bunch of Afghan soldiers. Well, on the first day, he was ambushed, and he was in an ambush for 2 days, conducting like this operation where he's having to call in fast air to drop ordnance, bring in other troops to orchestrate this whole attack. So the guys have to be top notch once they pass selection.
Do you know, see, when you're giving them the course and putting them through their paces, do you know from day one who's got a good chance of passing?
In the jungle, I know within, I would say, a week of how they conduct themselves. And there's a couple of little tests I would do with them that I wouldn't, you know, it's not rocket science. There's an exercise. The hardest thing in the jungle is navigating, to know where you are, because you can't see nothing. So everything's done by pacing, and it's ridge lines and river junctions and things like that. So there's a certain skill to it. So what I would do is take the guys out, and we'd do it tactically. So we're moving slowly, you know, everybody getting into fire position, stuff like that, get into a lying up position, and they run through all the drills. And then I would say, right, fellas, tomorrow we're going to just do some semi-tac stuff, and I will start giving you tips and stuff like that. But I want you up at 3 o'clock in the morning on the track. Now, when you're in the jungle, and the light goes down, it's like being locked in a room without any windows, and somebody puts a blanket over your head. Now the guys have to then put the hammock up, they have to put the poncho up, they have to sort the food out and everything else. So that means they're emptying their rucksack and various other things. So get them up at 3 o'clock, pitch black, pack the kit, get them on the track. I would walk them for about 200 meters, then just stop them and say, right, you lot sit down, get yourself a brew on, get something to eat. And then I'd walk down to the basher site. So this used to crack me up. You get to say one basher site, so you find a pair of socks. You get over here, you find some paper, you find something else, you'll find a bit of equipment, you'll find maybe a rifle magazine. So then I go back and I'm like, whose is this? You know, that's him. So there's a lot of bollockings. And then it's like, you then get to see how a guy takes a bollocking, because nobody likes being told you know, that they're an idiot and that their shit's not together. And it's how they affect them and whether they can get over it. But then you look at their attitude, the way they start looking at you. And then the other thing that I forgot to say as well, what I do is when I get them into that LUP point, I will just say I'm going back to base for an hour and I'll be back. Now, that patrol are supposed to work together. And that means if you're the radio operator, you've got to set up your radio, get your antenna out, and then write a message out and stuff like that. So what should be happening is one of the lads on patrol should be coming to you, asking you to give you his hammock and his poncho. So as you're working on the radio, he's putting your bedding up. Another guy should be coming in saying, give us your scoff and we'll eat together. So he's cooking tea as you're sending that message. So the patrol's working. But I guarantee you'll always get one guy who will slope off and he just gets his hammock up, gets his scoff on, and he thinks he's in bed now for an extra hour's kip because he's just looked after himself. Then as soon as I identify that person, when you watch them as a patrol working, he'll always stand out like a dog's bollock. And you know he's not working with it. And the more you watch, the more things you see. And then at the end, you know, you're making notes and stuff like that. And during the period of time, they'll come up to you and they'll just say, you know, I'm going to rap. The funniest one was we went out on a 3-day, it was actually a 3-day turnaround Navex. So we walked for 3 days just directly out into the middle of the jungle. And I could see this kid, he was going to rap. And sure enough, at the end of the day, he came up and he went, Staff, I've had enough. And I went, just sit over there and take 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it. And he came back, he went, no, I want to rap. I went, okay, break your weapon, unload your weapon and break it up. Because this fucker now, he's got a live round up the spout, like, you know, and he could get pissed off with me. So just say, break your weapon down, pack it up in your bag. And then he said, oh, well, what happens now? I said, you're off. And he went, well, how am I getting back? And I went, the same way you got here, mate, you're going to walk. And then he realised, and it's happened a couple of times, they realised then they'd walked out thinking they're going to rap, but never thinking, I'll still have to walk back. So if he kept his mouth shut and just walked back, he would have still been in. You know, so from a mental point of view, you see guys make some really stupid decisions, especially when they're exhausted and tired. And they think a spider's around the corner or a snake's around the corner. So the jungle is a great place to be. I love it because as soon as I get in the jungle, I know I can step 2 meters away from you and you wouldn't be able to see me. And I can hide. And when you consider my escape and evasion was on a flat fucking desert floor, flat as this thing where there was no fucking hiding. The jungle to me is heaven. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if I've got
trees.
I don't give a monkeys if I've got ticks on me, bites, leeches, whatever. They can chew away as much as they want. I know I'm safe. Whereas in the desert, there's nowhere to hide.
Is that where a lot of people break in the jungle?
Yeah.
Is that the main?
Yeah. When you consider these guys are the fittest from the course because they've passed the first phase, they get in the jungle and they just rap. And they let themselves, and it shows mental weakness that they're not focused, and and they're all shapes and sizes. You know, you can't just say he's a big lad like yourself. He's a big unit. He'll be fine. It's all shapes and sizes. Now another one, and on my selection, which was unusual, during the resistance to interrogation. Now you've had a hard week on the run, no food, and living in just your clothes, piss wet through. And sometimes it's all around Scotland and further down to Northumberland. So yeah, you're knackered. And then you go into a resistance to interrogation for 36 hours. And it's very realistic. You're subjected to sleep deprivation, which really screws your mind up. But you're interviewed by different people. You'll usually get a guy who looks decent. He'll ask you nice questions and he'll say, if you sign this piece of paper, I'll give you this bar of chocolate. You'll get a right nasty looking guy who's going to threaten you. You know, he's going to knock your head in. You'll get an old guy who will just keep asking you the same question. And he puts you in a false sense of security because you think he's a dithering old guy. And then you get a woman. And I'll tell you what, you go into a room as big as this table and behind you, and the woman's there's 2 guards behind you, and there's cameras. And what it is all the other interrogators are watching your reaction. And she's listening to them, and they do an analysis on you. So first thing she does is get your overalls off. So you're freezing cold, so your dick's disappeared. Yeah, and she laughs like that. She's like that. But you call that a cock? You know, is that, what's that? What are you going to do with that? Well, I mean, to me, I'm just blank it, zone it out, and you're there because you can't talk. You can only see your name, rank, and number. That's it. And I'm thinking, they can punch the shit out of me because they can't kill me because it's an exercise, but your head starts to get twisted and these guys are in foreign uniforms and stuff, and you're thinking, is this real? And you start questioning yourself. Well, these lads, one lad, he was a big old paratrooper, being down south, he launched himself over the table to knock this bird's head in. And obviously the guards pulled him down. He was off selection. And he'd done all the work on the hills, done all the work in the jungle. And then another guy did it, and she had 7 guys crack under an interrogation. And it's a mental state, and it's hard to tell you. I mean, if you were doing something psychedelic, you know, there isn't like say gnomes running around the floor, but they're there. That's like not being on drugs, but it's like being on drugs because you haven't slept for maybe 3 or 4 days, and then when you're in the bag, in the pen, you're in stress positions, being subject to white noise, and it really like screws your head in a big way. And that's the easiest way to interrogate anybody is, first of all, keep them up for a week, and then they'll start seeing things, they'll hear voices, and then you throw a bit of waterboard in, and they'll be fucking singing like a budgie.
I don't know if this is true, but I used to watch I don't know what film it was, but I think they used to put the soldiers under the water, but it used to just tap on the top of their head like drip.
Yeah, it's just to make you...
They just used to lose their shit.
Yeah, you can... It's making anybody uncomfortable because the white noise, it's say like non-evasive in terms of it's not being hit with a stick, because the good thing is somebody's hitting you with a stick, and I'm sure you've had a fair few beatings. When they're hitting you, you grit your teeth and say, go on, you bastard, you know, and it gets your adrenaline up, it gets everything up, and you're getting ready to go back. When nobody's touching you and your back's breaking, your arms are breaking, or you're in a sitting position with your hands on your head, and then somebody's pouring water over you just to make you cold, and you're freezing, and that it wears you away.
So that's the mental torture of it, not the physical.
Yeah, and it's you're kept in a room under their control. All I did was 36 hours. You know, I know it's 36 hours. You don't know how far in you are, how far, you know, you've got to go. In fact, you're that screwed before you go in on the exercise, because it's a week on the run and being chased by, say, infantry units with dog teams. So you might have had about 3 or 4 beatings during that period. They said when you finish, it'll be the sergeant major of training wing. He'll have a white armband on, and he'll get you out the room. And sure enough, this guy, Don, came and he went, Geordie, that's it. I didn't believe him. I'm like, this is a fucking trick. And I sat outside on the floor, and he said, are you all right yet? And I was like, wouldn't speak to him. And it took me about 3 hours until other guys were coming out of the pen, and we're all sat together because you're that aware that this could be a setup. But it wasn't, you know, but that's how much it screws your head. Yeah.
How important is it going through that training and those exercises for if you ever do get captured?
Well,
really important?
It is important, but the guys that were captured when I was on the run, another element came in, and it was down to the telephone. Now, what you've got to do is, or what we know is, you've got to hold out for a minimum of 12 hours, and the information that you have will be rendered useless. So it means you're going to take a beating, you know, for a good period of time. The way of soldiering now is changed quite a lot because they have tracking devices on them. So everybody knows, oh, they're being captured. You've got like clear comms, you've got this and that. But some of my friends, the Iraqis who were interrogating them and like beating them, had been to Sandhurst, and they had friends who were in the British Army. So one guy's in front of an Iraqi interrogator, and he said, so what's your regiment? And he went, parachute regiment. He knew it was SAS, but he just said, no, parachute regiment. And he went, right, okay, who's your company commander? And you remember, you don't know if you're going to get a round in the back of your head and stuff like that. So it was, you know, it's tense. For then the Iraqi to turn around and go, yeah, your company commander, say Josh Thomas, I was in Sandhurst with him. I know his wife Julie, and they've got 2 kids. And it's nearly bringing in that relationship that he knows people that you know, and you think, okay, where's this leaving me? So the dynamics of interrogation have changed. Waterboarding's a very good tool because not many people will get through that. So no, it's just, you've got to hold out for, basically when you get caught, you've just got to remember, I'll hold out for as long as I can. And you know that back at base, they're wiping the slate clean of anything that you were doing, or any codes you may have, any locations, because they're going to get that information.
The Geordies they're tough bastards. The Geordies, kind of the Geordies, the Liverpudlians, the fucking, and the Glaswegians are quite. I know a lot of the Scottish pass the SAS course. Why is that? Also,
well, I think my best friend, I was out with him the other day. He came from a tenement in Edinburgh, and he single parent. Just wanted to get out because it was in a really rough end of Edinburgh. He wanted to get out. My mates, one of the lads, I mean, he was verging on like a psycho. His dad ran an abattoir in Glasgow, and he wanted to, just get away from the place. A lot of lads didn't have a pot to piss in. They come from very similar backgrounds, and this is why the army has a problem. When lads were leaving the army over the last 20 years because of the stresses that they were under, because we were embedded in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it went on for a hell of a long time. A lot of them don't have any families. And, some of them were orphans, some of them single parents, they can't go back or whatever, and they end up on the streets homeless because they don't have that network. Plus the fact some of them were going home and their mates didn't understand what they'd been through or what they'd seen. I mean, there's a lot of bluffing as well going on and bullshit. But on the whole, yeah, guys come from checkered backgrounds. I mean, I can remember, and I swear to God, this is true. It was a guy, I'll not say the village up in Scotland, but he came from Scotland, sat round, and somebody started on about why, we joined. And I said to travel. My mate, he said he wanted to get out the tenement because it was shite. Somebody else said there was no prospects. And one of the lads said, my dad used to shag me. And the conversation stopped, and I was waiting for like the punchline like a joke. And he went, his next thing was, he went, and my mother knew, and she didn't stop him. So he said, I left at 16 to join the Marines. And that was like, that's the end of that conversation. But we all probably know people who's been abused, or whether it's just physically or, like the other side. And they want to get into an organization that's got a family, and then all their mates are there. But some of these young kids, that were subject to that sort of thing, they joined the army at a time where you were going to be in Iraq or Afghanistan, you're going to see your mates getting slaughtered and all the rest of it. And not all of them could, endure that type of pressure. And then they're caught between, the devil in the deep blue sea. Do they go back to that, shite that drove them away there, or what do they do? And another thing with soldiers, you're very much protected being in that organization. Your wage is paid into the bank. Somebody gives you a uniform. Wednesday's like Fizz Day, the doctor's there, the dentist is there whenever you want. You've got a bunk, you've got a room, you get help, you get fed, everything's done for you. All of a sudden, when you're pushed out into Civvy Street, it's not so easy as being in the military. And you've got to fight, and it's really hard to do anything. And then they've left an organization, where they think they're at the top of the game, and all of a sudden they get out and they haven't got a job, and they're not at the top of the game, and it's difficult, it's challenging for them
because there's no structure involved.
Yes,
the people slip back into old habits. But do you tend to see that a lot of people who pass the toughest courses are the ones who come from trauma and get nothing to lose?
Yeah, a lot of them. I would say all my mates came from very similar backgrounds. In fact, it was just the officers who had privileged backgrounds. All the guys just came, usually council houses, and you know, certainly not wealthy or anything like that, and that shows. It shows a lot with the guys, but them guys, when you work in a team, there's something, and you'll understand this. It's being streetwise, street savvy. You can walk into a bar, and if a fucking guy's looking at you, you know it's either going to kick off, and you'll probably have a number of things you're going to do. Is what's around. There's either a bottle there, there's a chair there, or there's an escape route there. Like say an officer that's been to a privileged background, he'll wander in there, and he'll not recognize that this guy's clocked him for whatever reason, or something's not right, or that person shouldn't be in here for whatever reason. It's like being on a street. You walk down a street and you're making assumptions without you even knowing you're making assumptions. You know, when them attacks happened on London Bridge, people have got their heads down, they're walking on the wrong side of the road, first of all, because the car's coming from behind them. They've got their ear plugs in, they're reading emails, and then they get flattened. Or when the attacks were going on and people were stabbing and people's running towards them, not knowing who the attackers are. I think when you've come from a certain type of background, you read the streets and you can read where it could all go wrong. And we used to do that, you know, across the water, you can walk around and you just look at somebody the way he's dressed. And I can't say exactly what it is, but you just know something's wrong. I look at people, and if they're looking at you, and it could just be somebody like looks and then looks away, but if he's still looking at you, I immediately look at his hands, and then how he's dressed, and you know what interest has he got with me. Now I went through a period of time where I was doing lots of TV work, but I never felt, you know, I was known. So I was in a bar with my brother in Newcastle, and two guys
looking at you.
Yeah, and I felt eternally shamed. My mother was in hospital; she was going down with cancer, so it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best times for me. That's the only thing. And these two guys, and I said to my brother Keith, I went, "It's going to kick off in a minute, mate." And he's a handy fuck, and he went, "Ooh," I said, "There's two across there, and it's going to fucking go." And I said, here we go. And they started walking over. So I just went straight over. I went, "What the fuck are you looking at like that?" And my brother was there. Fucking hell. These two guys, they were lovely. And they said, "Oh, we thought you were that guy, Chris Ryan, off TV. We've been watching. We've just been thinking, would it be all right to come over and talk to you?" I was like, "Fuck's sake." I said, "Yeah, listen, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "My mother's in hospital." Then I'm talking to these guys about my mother in hospital, and I didn't want to. So there's that sort of thing. But usually, walking around, you get that skill set, and all my mates, I know they've all got it.
See, when you passed the SAS course, did you see a change in you straight away, or do you not notice those changes yourself?
No, I mean, because I was big into my phys then. You think, you know, the world's at your feet, and probably do a few stupid things. It probably wasn't until I had my daughter, I wasn't as carefree in terms of looking after myself, whether diving out of a helicopter, you know, free falling or fast roping. You would look at life slightly different. But I knew I wouldn't be one of these old guys hanging on in there, swinging the lamp and hanging on to dear life. You've definitely got a shelf life to do that job, and it's around 35 to 40, and you should be leaving.
Yeah. What was your first mission once you became a SAS soldier?
Well, we would do cover when there was an operation in Northern Ireland. When we were on the anti-terrorist team, we'd head over and to do that. We were mobilised to go there, mobilised to go to Aden. Then the Gulf kicked off to go out there, and then after the Gulf, they sent me out to Zaire to evacuate the British embassy. And I think that's when I probably had some, like, say, mental problems.
In what way?
Well, obviously, that thing in Iraq, it had taken its toll, but there was no such thing as PTSD or, you know, anything like that. And I just thought, you know, I didn't really see a problem, because when you've got mental illness, you're looking through the same set of eyes, but it's your friends who say something's something's changed with you, and usually it's down to violence, wanting to scrap, just being a moody bastard, not tolerating fools, and also being driven, so pushing yourself to stupid limits. So, if we were doing anything physical, I'd want to, be the guy at the top. If it was something mental, then I had to do that. And it manifests itself in different ways. Some guys used to get divorced straight away. Some guys would be, take to the bottle, drinking. And then others would just, sit on it. There was a lot of suicides. Went through a patch of quite a few suicides, killing themselves. And then other guys become like junkies. My mate from Edinburgh, he started, after he left the regiment, he started his own private military contracting company, made millions, lots of money. But again, he was always on the ground. He'd phone us up, and it doesn't matter where I was in the world. He's laughing at the other end of the phone. They're in, say, his last phone call was he was in a police station, and he said, "Oh, we're brassing these guys up," and you could hear the machine guns firing, the fire orders coming out, and I'm like, "That, John, you're going to be the richest man in the graveyard. You need to fucking get out of there." But he was addicted to it.
The adrenaline. Mm-hmm. That's the mad thing, though. Like, you're training these people to be the toughest people on the planet, the fittest, the strongest, but yet the brain's a powerful thing that if it sees trauma, it doesn't matter how hard you train. Once it goes, and you've seen that with, like I say, these guys who are the elite of the elite, who are willing to go anywhere in the world to die for a cause, to try and save lives. But as soon as they see trauma, because it's not a humane thing to see pain.
No,
and trauma.
You get over it, and you become
desensitized. Do you get over it though, or do you forget it?
Forget it. You put it in a box.
Yeah.
You're desensitized from it. Mm-hmm. And I suppose I was really desensitized to the point where if a guy my age, when I was, say, maybe 30, 32, said, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit shit, my mother died or my dad died," and I'm like, "Fucking hell, well, they're going to die anyway." And that's not, that's after seeing people dead. I mean, I was in Zaire watching kids starve to death. Didn't give it monkeys, that's it. So you get that desensitization, which isn't nice, and it's not good. So you have that, and like I went to 18 funerals in my 10 years in the SAS. 18 guys, and like 3 of them I was on selection with, passed into the regiment with. Another bunch of them used to drink with them all the time. You'd feel sad for the day when you found out that they died. You're like, down out. You have your funeral, and then it's back to work, and that's it. But what happened with me, the first guy I passed into the regiment was a lad called Fergus Rennie, and he was a very professional soldier. He was the first SAS soldier to be killed in Bosnia. And I was sat in the house, and the guard, when it came through the guard room, one of the lads phoned us up and said, "Just to let you know, Fergus has been killed." And that had a different effect. It was nearly like losing a child, not that I have, but the only way I can explain it. And it had a profound effect on me because I knew that kid inside out from being his instructor throughout selection. And a couple of other things, I could have sacked him. He did a couple of things that, if I'd been harsh, I could have sacked him and he wouldn't have been in the SAS. And I was wrapped with guilt for many years, thinking that kid would still be alive. He wouldn't have been a happy one for not passing selection. But yeah, he had a different effect on me. And he was part of the reason I left the regiment. And then subsequently, over the years, 5 other guys died that I took through selection. But I mean, that's where you've got to grip yourself and think, well, wait a minute, they were chasing their dreams. You were just a conduit that, facilitated them into the regiment. Their lives aren't on, my responsibility. But when you know them that well and you've seen them on their knees, fucking breaking, and then you realize that they're just, they're being killed, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah. How does that affect relationships and stuff then, becoming cold? Or, do you still have some emotion towards trying to build a relationship with people, or do you just become so cold that you don't think?
Sometimes it's like my mates, when we get together, we're fine. Other like outside friendships, if it's like, with a, like say a female or whatever, it takes a long time before you start trusting them or trusting somebody. But the other thing as well with the likes of me, and it's the same as some of the guys I know, if somebody tries to screw you, like as in, rip you off or do anything, first thing is, I'm gonna fucking do them. And you can't go through life like that. So you've got to tail back a bit. I mean, I was terrible for, like, say, road rage for a while. Now I'm like, who gives a shit type of thing. But it's sometimes your reaction cannot fit your reaction cannot fit the action that's just, say, happened. And sometimes I could be too quick to bark. I could probably be too uniform. My daughter, I mean, she's got a master's in English literature. She's got more letters behind her name than anything. And then she decided she wanted to be an artist. I'm like, well, what's that about? Like, and we used to log heads because I was like, no, this is what you're going to do. You're leaving school, you're going to university, you're doing this, you're getting that job. And she's like, yeah, screw you. This is what I'm doing. And really, it was her choice. And I could have saved a lot of heartache if I just went, yeah, that's up to you. Do whatever you want.
Is that the old sergeant kind of kicking in?
Yeah, I think it is, only because it's all right. I guess it's easy enough for her, but when you've been brought up, with nothing, and you've seen people with nothing, you don't want to go back to like that.
Mm-hmm. But then it is tough because as everybody's got their own choices, but you're just used to seeing kids maybe not ruining their life, but you've seen kids lose their life as well. Mm-hmm. So you're just wanting to try to bring the best out for her, but even though you're probably pushing her away because you're being too strict.
Yeah, too strict. And my mate, John, he's done exactly the same to his son. And we were just talking about it on Sunday night, and it's nearly like the banker mum and dad, and he's like that. No, you've got your job. You've beat, because his son he sent his son to Fetties up there, and then all the best schools, but then John expects him to be like him, which he never will be like him. My daughter will never be like me because it was the upbringing, and maybe if I'd like said, yeah, right, you're going to live in this rough area to teach you a lesson, she should be like, say, a bit like me, but she's not. So you can't, it's very difficult, the parenting. First of all, there ain't a novel, or a guideline to read. But also, you're usually giving the best you can to your children, which is quite the opposite than, say, what we were probably getting as children. So you create a different model.
Can your daughter understand all what you've been through and what you've seen as well?
You know what she would say? I don't give a shit, really.
Do you actually see a lot of yourself in your daughter then?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, because I've got to watch her, because when we start having an argument, I know there's a nut coming in somewhere along the line, because she'll get physical, or she'll get a bit feisty. But no, it's just life. I mean, you bring your family up the best you can, and you just hope for the best.
Yeah. See, when you get the longest. What's it? Longest
escape innovation? Escape innovation.
History, like 200 miles. Like, it was 8 kids. Was it Iraq you went?
Yes, it was in Iraq. We went in to Iraq to look for Scud missiles, but we broke every standing operating procedure going. Now the SAS have what they call SOPs, and it's how we it's how we conduct operations. Well, our maps dated back to 1945. We didn't have the right clothing. We didn't have the right radios. We didn't have the right intel. And we were going in to basically dig in underground to an area that overlooked a main supply route. And when we got there, we found that the main supply route wasn't like a tarmac road. It was just a series of tracks. Well, the missile, the Scud, can't drive down them tracks. It needs to be on like a proper road. So we knew we were in the wrong place. And the weather was a big factor. It was the worst winter Iraq was having for 30 years. And it was within a short period of time we were compromised. And we tried to establish communications back to base. Couldn't get through. I eventually got through by tapping out Morse code to some guy in Cyprus who then relayed a message back. But by that time it was too late. We ended up in a contact, and then Iraqis tracking us down. Over the period of, say, 2 or 3 days, well, the first day I was split up from the group with 2 of the lads. Sadly, in the early hours of the next day it started snowing, and Vince died of hypothermia right next to us, and we had the same clothes. So I watched a man die, freezing to death. Then the other lad, he went off with a goat herder, and then I was ended up by myself, and basically 7 days, 8 nights to hit the Syrian border. And the cold was the hardest thing. During the day, I couldn't move. I would try and find a hollow, somewhere to hide. Desert floor, there's nothing there. And this wind cutting through, had cold injuries and all the rest. And then the first night on the run, we did 70 kilometers, about 50 miles, and we were carrying our belt kits, which was about 50 pounds. I burnt my feet because we were really hammering it. So the blisters then got infected. I was losing weight rapidly every day. You're lying there just friggin' freezing and no sleep. And then at night I could start moving, and you keep bumping into Iraqis and various others. Then eventually got to the border, and when I got across the border, I got to a Syrian, Bedouin. They got me into a town, but then there was a lynch mob tried to get me back into Iraq. Then the police held a mock execution for me, where they blindfolded me, put a pistol to my head, and I eventually got back to Damascus, where I was handed over to the secret police. And during that first handover, I was allowed to use a bathroom to clean myself up, because obviously I hadn't washed or anything, and shave. But I'd lost 36 pounds in body weight in 7 days, or lost all my toenails. All the blisters had turned septic. There was pus coming out of them. I had was bed sores on the sides of my leg, my back, arms, elbow. And then if I squeezed my fingernails, there was pus coming out of them. If I sucked in my mouth blood, I had a blood disorder, damaged liver, damaged kidneys. I drank some water that had come from a chemical plant, and that was full of effluent. That had burnt my mouth. And then it took 3 days to get out of Damascus, got into Riyadh, and then a flight back to the base in Saudi where my squadron was. And then it transpired 4 of the guys had been captured. 2 had died of hypothermia, froze to death. Legs had tried to swim the Euphrates, and he died immediately on the other side. And 1 guy was shot and killed. So 2 guys died of cold, which is criminal, because we didn't have the right kit, right radios, and also we've been told that if we were contacted, they would send in a helicopter to pick us up. But when we did get contacted, they changed their mind and said no, let them write them off.
Suicide mission?
Yeah, that was it. You're gone. I mean, it's no big deal, because that's what you've got the SAS for. And what the other thing, to be fair, when if they sent a helicopter in to get us, they would have probably had to send 2 or 3, and we only had 2 to the regiment. And if the risks were, if we'd been caught by the Iraqis, it could have been a come on. So when the helicopters came in, they'd have been blown out the sky, or you're risking having maybe 60 guys in that helicopter to come and rescue 8. And if it went down, got hit, you've lost all of them guys. And remember, the SAS are trained in escape and evasion. But I mean, yeah, that was it. So yeah, it was 200 miles to the Syrian border. It was the longest 7 days of my life.
Does that not make you angry though? Is that just part and parcel
Just
of the
part
job?
of, you got to accept it. I mean, I didn't have any food and very little water. In fact, at the end, I was hallucinating because of the lack of water. My brain had shrunk. But you just got to accept it. It was just one of them things. From the point when we were compromised, everything was going to go downhill. Because I can remember when I was getting on the helicopter to fly in, one of the lads was standing there and he was like, "This is not right." I went, "I know." I said, "It's a one-way ticket, but we're still fucking going." And that was it. You know, I guess the regiment, when I say they use the word gamblers, they'll take risks, you know, to pull something off. But you know, if it goes wrong, it's going to go catastrophically wrong and it'll just, the dominoes will fall. Because again, you know, you're out there by yourself. And
So seeing you're going through that for the 7 days, what's going through your mind then? At any point did you think, am I going, or did you keep believing to yourself, I'm not going to die?
Every day there's one. It's going to sound really pathetic, but there was the first day I was by myself. I made the Euphrates, and I had to crawl into the Euphrates to get to a depth to fill my water bottle because I didn't have any water. And I left. It was still dark. And I started to push back into the what they call the wadi systems, these dried riverbeds. And I found one, and it was on a north-facing slope. So I got into a hollow and lay there. I was fucking freezing, because I was wet again, and the temperatures are below zero. And I'm like, fuck. And I knew I was by myself now, and I knew I probably had 5 or 6 days of walking. And I don't know what it was, but this thing popped up in my head. And it was my mother talking to us, going, as a kid, used to say, if things get on top of you, just have a good cry. Just cry and you'll get over it. So I'm sat there and I can look around, make sure nobody's looking. And then I went, I couldn't cry. But what it did is I started laughing. And I was just laughing. And it actually cleared my mind. And I was like, right, yeah. You are by yourself. You've got 5 days walking. You've got no food. You've got water. Everything's okay at the minute. And it was just boom. And then I could plan. But having said all of that, every night after that, there'd be times where I was walking and I was that knackered. I would get I'd end up on my knees feeling sorry for myself. And then you start shivering and then you're like, come on, you twat, get moving. And there was it got to the point where my feet were that bad with it when they were infected that the pain was too much I would sit down and then the pain would move from my feet and I'd be like that. But when it came to move, which was in probably a couple of minutes because it was freezing cold, and having to stand on them, I had to shuffle a couple of steps, and it must have looked fucking pathetic, really, until my feet were numb again, and then I could start walking. And then it got to the point where I would rest on my rifle and I would keep the pressure on my feet and then carry on moving. And then at the 7-day point, it was more through the lack of water. I started collapsing, but I was hallucinating. And one night, my daughter came in front of us and I was trying to grab a hold of her hand and I could see her feet moving, rocks moving, and I was just following it. I don't know what I passed on the left or right of me. And then what would happen is, the first time it happened, it was like a static when you hear electricity going like that. And then I got punched in the back of the head. It was this big bang. And it was that realistic. When I went down on my knees, I turned around to see who'd punched me. And obviously there was nobody there. So I got myself up. It happened again. And when I came to, I was flat out on the desert floor, shaking. I'm like, that's a stupid place to fall asleep. Then it did it again. I was across the border. It did happen again, and I'd fallen against a small wall, broke my nose, and then at first light I could see a house, and that was the Syrians that gave me the water and tea. But I was fucked. Now, a human usually can go 10 days without food, but water you'll get 3 days maximum before you go. And what them bangs were, that was my brain shortening out. It was my brain was shrinking, and the messages that go around your brain were just fucking colliding. And it was like your body's closing down, but it's your brain that's closing your body down. And I knew I was knackered. And when I came to, I could see the small house with smoke coming from it. And I thought, you know what? If it's Iraq, I'm taking water and I'll kill them. I don't give a shit now. If it's Syria, then they should help me. And I got there. There was a young lass with like a upturned wok making a bread on a fire. An old boy was leaving the like mud hut with some goats. And then this young lad came out, and I just said, water, water. And then I was saying, Iraq, Iraq. And he didn't. I said, Syria, Syria. And he went, Syria, Syria. And then he was like, Iraqi, Iraqi. And then I could see the border, so I knew I was in Syria. And then he went straight in, gave us this bowl of water, drank it. And then in the room, he gave us a small glass of sweet tea. And it was like being on chemicals. It was just like, boom. And that was just a bit of sugar. And it was like, woof. And I said, right, I need to get to a police station. I packed my rifle up, my belt kit up. He gave us a bag. I wanted to see what my feet were in, what state they were in. Pulled them off. He then requested his sister, I think. She then disappeared with my socks, and I mean they were minging. There was pus and everything in them. So like washed the clean my feet off. She brought the socks back, put them on, and then I drew a diagram on a piece of paper, like newspaper, with a crayon, and said I need a policeman. So as we were walking into town, there was this Syrian coming out, and he'd been buying stuff for his camels, hay, and he could speak a bit of English. And he said, what do you want? And I was like, I need to get to a police station. And to him, I was saying, I'm a pilot. I crashed my aircraft, and went in through a series of things that happened. He got to a garage, and pulled into the garage, and he'd been saying to me, I should take you back to Iraq because my cousins are from Iraq. And I'm like, nah, I ain't going back to Iraq, mate. I need to see the police. He kept touching the bag to see if I had a weapon in there. Well, there was two guys filling diesel up at a pump like that. They came straight up the window, didn't look at me, looked down at the bag, and then ran off to the back of the garage. So I was like, it's kicking off. So I grabbed my bag, and as I was like getting out of the vehicle, he grabbed my arm. So I dragged the fucker over the chairs and like started slamming his head on the door. Then I was running down the street, and I would have said I was sprinting. And I turned around, there was about two 70-year-old guys just like this behind me. But them young lads had come out, and they had like, you know, their sticks and stuff. And I just kept on running and came around this corner, and there was a guy with an AK-47, and he just had, wait, it was a police station. He grabbed me. Otherwise, they would have had me, and I would have been over the thing. He grabbed me, took me into a courtyard, and then held the crowd outside. And then over a few hours of like sending a couple of code words, hoping that they would get to the coalition, they give me this dish dash to put on and a shamag over my face, and two guys marched me out into a car. They didn't tell me where they were taking me or anything, and they took me out to the middle of the desert, and there was a pre-arranged RV with a secret police, and that's when this guy put the gun to my head. And then the next minute I was in Damascus, handed over. I mean, the gun thing, they were just pulling the piss. They were just having a laugh. But I'd lost my sense of humour at that point. But anyway, I got into Syria. Fuck me, they couldn't have done enough for me. They sent me out. They sent a young lad out, took my measurements, like got me a suit, shirt, socks, underpants and shoes, but my feet were in that bad a state I couldn't get the shoes on. And then they got me round to the British Embassy, where I was there for 2 days, and I had to wait to get a passport made. And then the Syrians wouldn't let me leave the country because I didn't have the incoming visa. So I had to go back to the secret police, and they got the visa stamped, and then I got back to the regiment. But I was in a bad way for a good 6 weeks. It took about probably 6 weeks for all the scarring to heal up, my feet to heal up. And like I was just like an old man walking. My fingernails came back. My gums had receded, so I was getting terrible toothache. My gums had shrunk both up and below. And like I say, the weight, it took about 3 months for the weight to get back on, but your body's got that muscle memory, so it came on. But then I ended up in a hospital in London, and because I drank some chemicals, and they think the chemicals have done something to me, because I get this patch, and it used to come up on my forehead, but it travels around my body. And the people that did the tests on me, typical of the army, they said, we didn't find anything. And as I was leaving, they said, do you have any family? I went, yeah, I've got a daughter. And he said, are you thinking about having any other children? And I went, yeah. He went, I wouldn't. And then I was like, why not? He went, we don't know what you've got. But that chemical plant was where Saddam Hussein was trying to make yellow cake. And it was bombed by the Americans. And then Delta, guys from Delta Force, whom I know, they flew in right into this compound where I had been, because when I got out, I had to brief them of the layout of this place. And then one of their lads got compromised, and he was shot and killed in action. He took a direct round in his head, right where I'd been sitting. But yeah.
You don't glow up in the dark or anything, do you?
Okay, now I'll tell you what. The luminosity on my watches is always all right.
So why do you think you survived that? What does that come down to? Just mental toughness? I read something that there was a man who got locked himself in the freezer, and he said, "I'm going to die." He kept repeating himself that he was going to die. He wrote Axel down that he was going to die. It was cold there, but it wasn't. The freezer was actually broke.
Yeah.
And then when they came in and got his body, he did freeze to death, but the freezer wasn't even working.
Yeah.
He killed himself by putting that in existence.
I've got to be careful on here, because this is real, and as in guys did die, but it's definitely mental strength.
Yeah.
And I would say, first of all, I'd been through SAS selection. I'd been trained on escape and evasion for like SOPs in terms of the procedures, how like always a north-facing slope, so the sun's not on you. It's always in shadow to hide, and things like that. Keep away from the population. You don't go and try and hire a vehicle or get a vehicle or try anything funny, because obviously I didn't have any food. You don't try and break into houses like that, because you're signaling yourself, you're flagging yourself. And again, I think it's that northern thought process. You get down, but you're like, well, fuck it, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to push. My choices were, I either hand myself over to them or I die. So it's like, I thought, I ain't handing them over till I get killed, and just push yourself on. And you do. It wasn't like a big streak of glory, because there was them times where I sat down and thought, I can't go on. You get over it and you just keep pushing on.
See the 3 kids that get captured, why did they kill one?
What happened was they were in a firefight, and there was 4 of them. There was 5 of them, sorry, 5. And a lad called Bob Consiglio, he was in my troop. He's the bravest man that I know of, and this guy should have had a VC. When they got contacted and the Iraqis were coming at them, Bob went down because he had the Mini-Me machine gun. And when you fire a Mini-Me, you do it uniformly. It's like bursts of not like that. It's aimed shots, so he's getting 3 bursts out. Now, when they split up, the group split up, Bob went down. These 2 guys thought Bob was with these 2. These 2 thought Bob was with them. So these 4 were captured. And when they came out, they basically said exactly what had gone on. So the conclusion was Bob got down on his gun to give these guys enough time to escape. And it was 40 minutes. He kept firing his weapon for 40 minutes, and then his weapon ceased firing, and his body was returned back to the UK. He'd been shot through the head, but the angle of the round entering and exiting meant he was behind the gun firing when the round went through, and also a round had hit his hip, which had detonated a phosphorus grenade, and that's how he was killed. One of them lads was shot in the ankle, and the other 2 managed to escape and swim the Euphrates, but then one of them died swimming the Euphrates. So no, I mean Bob, he gave his life to save them 4 guys, and that's how he was killed.
How far would they have had to have swum to make sure?
Well, the Euphrates is like it's like a big city river. You know, it's probably about, because I looked at it, I looked at getting across, and I was like, not a chance. You know, when you see it, you're like 100 meters type of thing, and it was the middle of winter, and I was like, not a chance.
I didn't think they had winter in Iraq and stuff.
It was snowed. On the day I was laid up with Vince and Stan, I was lying there waiting for the light to come up, and I was like lying in a ditch in a where it was what they call a tank berm. It has earth on 3 sides, and the tracks had subsided, and we were lying there, and I got pins and needles in my face. I woke up, I was fucking covered in snow, and I'm like, fuck. And we didn't have any kit, and we lay there. The next thing we saw, because the light came up, there was an Iraqi position right next to us, and we couldn't move. So we had to lie there, that ditch filled with water. It rained, snowed, rained, snowed. It was like being...
tortured?
Well, it's like being on, say, the Scottish mountains. You know, when you get that snow mixed with rain.
Sleet.
Yeah, and it's going to soak you, and you're lying in mud, and the wind is sucking the life out of you. It was the longest day of my life. And I mean, as I said at the beginning, I'm an alpine guide. I've been in Siberia. I've been in some of the coldest places on earth. That was the coldest day I've ever spent, because you've got the killer elements of being wet, the wind, and then more rain and snow coming down.
So what happens when you get home then? Do you get discharged, or do you get treatment and straight back in for another mission?
Oh, no, well, they wouldn't let me go home. When I got out and got back to Saudi, they went, all right, nobody knows that the guys are missing, because nobody knew what had happened to them. Said, you've got to stay here for another 2 months. And the boss said, we'll get you back over the border. You know, you can get back on ops. I'm like, I can't even walk 100 meters. Like, you know, I'm out of breath. So I just hung around. I got back to Hereford about 2 months after the event. Then I ended up being on the standby squadron, and then there was a big problem in Zaire where a team of guys had to go in, and it was going to get sporty. So I was the first person they picked, because I'm a communicator in terms of like SATs and the other type of radios. I'm also a trained medic, patrol medic. And then I was the right rank to take on that job. So when they picked me, I'm like, fuck off. And I had to put an indent in for kit. So I'm like, yeah, Jimpy machine guns, grenades, 66 rockets, Claymore mines, this. The Foreign Office came back and said, no, you can take an MP5 and a pistol. And then this is probably, unbeknown to me, this is where the PTSD started coming out, because I thought, this is another fucking operation that's going to go wrong, and you're going to be under-equipped. Then they upped the team to 4, so it was going to be 4 men, and then they upped it to 8 men. But still, MP5s and maybe a couple of M16s or 203s. And I got across there, and then the job kept going on and on and on. And we saw some awful things of like kids starving, a lot of murders, like infighting within their community, because the country was being run by President Mobutu, and the country was in shit state, and the economy was through the floor. So he was allowing his army officers to loot houses, and then the soldiers could go in to have the pickings, and then the civilian people could go in and pick over that. So then you could imagine how much fighting was going on. There was a bit of like machete wielding, and I saw quite a few young black lads with the old machete marks on them, and then having to sew them up, giving them a bit of like, hearts and minds and that.
So you were going straight in. Did you ever question it? Like, fuck me, like, I'm just a number here. They're just throwing me in and saying, you know what, leave them.
No, I was fucked. Mentally, I was fucked. I know.
Could you quit though? I interviewed a sniper a couple of weeks ago, Craig Harrison.
Yeah.
Unbelievable story. Yeah. He's on the edge. He was a trained killer, sniper, done what he had to do, but he just struggles now to get by. And did you ever think that, okay, I'm going to... He was 23 years before he was discharged.
Well, what had happened was I didn't go that way. I was like going the other way. getting really fucking dark. And now this story, I am eternally ashamed of it. I was having to recce a route for the ambassador. He was going to see the Portuguese ambassador. And me and another lad, another jock lad, decided Duncan would drive for us. So we're driving the route. And as we're driving the route, we're carrying weapons overtly, like as in on show and all the rest of it. And we're coming into the town and people are starving, but there was a stall, and people are just trying to get money. And for some reason I went, yeah, just stop here. Started walking up the stalls and there was this carving and it looks like a guy sitting on a trunk or on a toilet with a spear. Fuck knows what it was. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want that. I need it. I've got to have it. There's something magical about that. And I still don't get it today. Had to have it. So I said to the guy how much, and it was like $10. I'm like, I'm paying $10. It ended up $5. And I said, right, I'll be back, because I didn't have my wallet. I said, I'll be back here. Don't go. And this young lad said, no, please. He said, the money will feed my family. I'll come with you. And I went, well, I'm not driving you back from the embassy back here. And he went, no, I'll walk. It was about 15 miles. So anyway, he dives in the back of the car. Dunk's driving. I'm sat here. He's over there. And we're going up, at the time, the river's the River Congo. And it was when Mobutu took over, it was called the River Zaire. It's the fastest flowing river in Africa. And there's a bankside running down to it. You've got crocodiles and all sorts in it. And as I'm driving out, I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, fuck this. Then I said to Duncan, and I'm unclipping my pistol. I said, I'm just going to fucking shoot this fuck. I'm not going to give him the money. And then had the pistol ready to turn around and shoot him. And Duncan said, if you shoot him, you're going to have to clean the mess up. Because he said, I'm not cleaning that stuff up. Well, at the time, I was that mad. I was seeing people with bullet holes in their heads and their arms, like visions. And I thought it was a gift from God. And he was showing me how people were going to die. So as I looked around at him again, I could see his brains up the side of the car. And I looked and went, nah, fuck that. I said, I'm not cleaning that shite up. And I thought that was normal. So anyway, pulled into the embassy, got the $5, walked out. There's the black lad standing there. And I went over to him, gave him the $5. And he just fucking ran like mad. The poor kid obviously knew English. He knew exactly what I'd been saying. And I thought that was normal. It was fucking crazy. And I was off the charts. Another thing that happened was I ended up getting some broken ribs, and the lads had gone out on the piss, and I was upstairs, and this is in the compound of the embassy, and I could hear like women's voices. I'm like, that fucking hell, don't tell me you've brought birds back. Well, I had two girls in there. They were trying to get them to do the act on the floor, and I went like, fuck this. I lost the plot because it wasn't professional, and this is a secure unit. I went, get these fuckers out. And the guys are all like fucked up. And I said, right. And these girls then started saying, we want $1,000 each. And the embassy staff are over there. So I'm trying to grind everything down. I went, just wait, I'll get the money. Well, I had the wedge. So I went upstairs, got a couple of $1,000 each. I handed the two girls. I said, right, get in the car. We're off. And then they tottered into the car really quietly, got outside of the embassy. There was a lad driving. I went, just stop the car. So he stopped the car. My 9mm out, straight into the mouth of the other one. I went, give us me $1,000. She gave us the $1,000 back, stuck it in the other one, got the $1,000 back, get out the car. You're walking. Not a shit. This guy's going, oh, that's not very nice, like, Geordie. That's not a nice thing to do. I put the pistol to him and I said, if you fucking mention that I've got the money, I'll fucking do you. Which is out of character. So gets back in next morning, said the guys, right, get round, said we're $2,000 short from them whoas that you had in here. So it's all going to cost you $400 each. And all the lads just coughed up, put it in my pocket, and I went, right, fucking cheers. And that's not me.
Just losing your shit, taking money, willing to kill people.
Yeah, and that wasn't me though. And then when I think back, I'm like, what the hell was I on? And that is, that's just damage from that 1 week of being on the run. And I always think of what about these kids or these guys who have done like, long tours under fire in Afghanistan, being attacked every day? What are they doing now?
What's it all about then, brother?
I don't know. But I mean, having said that, I did have an exceedingly good time.
Do you know what I mean? I understand it, and I says this to Craig's podcast that the world would be a great place if there was no conflict, if there was no greed or whatever it is. But there is. Somebody needs to do it. Like, but everybody who I speak to, there's the same patterns of that kind of.
When you start on,
you look brand new. You look sane. Other people I speak to, you can tell they're borderline. You can tell they're fucking good people. And if I was to get into battle, these are the guys I want standing with me. Like you look.
Mind you, I was very fortunate. When I left the regiment, I set up 2 big bodyguard teams. So I was actually working with ex-SAS guys, but in a civilian job. So my trajectory into becoming a civilian was tapered because we still had the black humour, although we're dressed like this or in suits. We still had the black humour, and then come in, and then I started writing. So it wasn't as if I didn't have a job. I was being well paid as a bodyguard, travelling all over the world. Same crack as it was when I was in the regiment. And then that tapered off, and then I went to the books. So it wasn't a big jolt for me back to earth. So I was very, very fortunate. There was no worries. I didn't have any worries. And then I moved into that, and that brings its own problems. The writing.
Why?
In terms of like stories and things that come out, and it makes you think of things. I never find it like a cathartic process. It's if I'm talking about a firefight, it's like I know what it's like, them rounds coming over your head, and it ain't funny. So putting that down on paper can bring it out. But also it's alien. Now, I'm not a big one for like celebrityism or like hitting the red carpet or anything like that. I'd rather just be like a grey man. But at book signings, when I'm sat there, my head's down, I'm writing a name, I can't see who's the left and right of me, and that's alien to me. I like to be the guy standing in the corner who's got the 9mm that you don't even look at. And it's quite different. Being on a stage doing a talk, it's all right because you can control, say, the audience, but the book signings, never been comfortable with them, from the start.
Are you still always on guard? Are you still always wary of your
surroundings?
Well,
yeah, I am. My daughter was targeted. She had 2 policemen on her doorstep for 2 years.
Why?
There was a team of guys that were going to come along, on video and probably take her head off. And that was Scotland Yard anti-terror branch that cracked it, got it in. I was in America, in my house in America, and I got a phone call, and I thought they were going to tell me that there's a nutter, following me, and it wasn't. It said, yeah, your daughter's being green-lit.
How do you feel when you get that phone call?
It's the most frightening thing I've ever experienced, because my arse went through the floor when I was on the phone to that guy, and he said, you know what they're going to do, you know who they are. He said, I can't tell you anything. He said, but it's on. And he said, we've got policemen going to our house now. And then I'm on the house phone, phoning her on my mobile phone. She's looking, it's Dad. She's just going to speak to that fucker later. And I'm trying to get through, so I left some choice voicemails with her. And so she ended up in that position. So you can't, you've just got to, and the thing is, you're always going to get nutcases everywhere. But when, you get the wrong type of nutcase, because I've had my stalkers and stuff like that, which, touch wood, they didn't do much, but you've just got to be aware, because you can never underestimate how many nutcases there are out there, And it's when they come after your family or want to do something to your family, that's what fucking got my bold head, bold up.
So when you started the writing, once you came out, is that? Do you think that's what's kept you sane?
Probably. It's a driving force, and it's something to look forward to, because it's usually the process is a good 6 months for an adult novel, but then, like I was saying, when I do my kids' books, I got access to schools, and I can't, I couldn't say to you, like, go out and buy Manhunter and read the fucker, because you'll be like that, whatever. But if I'm writing children's novels and it's an hour they're in their class and they have to read it, then I've got a captured audience. And all you've got to do is capture a kid early and get him to read. And once he gets over that sense of it's only a book and I can read a book, they will read when they're adults. And it's the educational benefits of just reading that you don't know you're getting, just the structure of a sentence, words that you wouldn't probably know how to spell, but you've seen it, you've read it, and then you've been entertained. We could all read Manhunter here now. We would see different colours. When I describe a guy, you would see somebody different. On a scene, you'd see some different. That's what makes reading books way better than being belt-fed a movie, because that's somebody else's vision. But when you read something, it's your brain setting up the information that you're reading on that page, and what you see is slightly different to what other people.
Your own vision. Obviously, Chris Ryan, your name in all your books. Is that one of the reasons why you changed your name?
Well, no, because when I came out, what happened was there was a movie made called The One That Got Away, and that was of my book, but they made it very controversial. And I only wanted to set a couple of things straight with that book. I wasn't interested in doing novels or anything like that, and so I just said, right, I want a pen name, because obviously I'm not fussed about the Colin Armstrong thing, but it's basically it was the fact was I was doing one book. Then The One That Got Away was #1 for 16 weeks, and I had a huge readership. My editor then said, would you be interested in going into fiction? And I was like, not really. I just wanted that one story. But then after there was a few things that had happened. I then said, you know what? Yeah, I will do fiction. Well, it started off as what they called faction. So they were based on real events that happened in the regiment, but I'd bring fictional characters in so I could tell that story. And then it went from strength to strength. And then a lot of kids were coming to bookshops saying, my dad won't let me read your adult book, rightly so because of the language and things. So then started doing junior fiction. Then I discovered this new world of something, and a world where I could make a difference, and a good difference. From all the shit I'd been doing in the SAS, I could make a difference in a good way. And that means a lot to me. And you're putting something back into society. I get letters now from kids who are now adults, because I've been doing kids' books for maybe 20 odd years, and they'll say, no, I'm reading this book now, I'm reading that. This was the first book I've ever read, douche. And that means a hell of a lot to me.
Yeah. See, talking about your story now, how much does it play an effect on you? Does it just normal now? Or
well, I can keep it. It can bring emotions, but I try to keep them, keep on top of it. I did a program for National Geographic about 5 years ago, and I was debriefed by a team, and it was in France, at my place in France, and I swore I would never do it again, because it was 8 hours talking about, each day, individual day. So when I was getting back, it started opening up other things, and I'd be lying in bed thinking, oh, I've never thought of that. I must remember to tell them that. So it was just exhausting, everything. And it was nearly like a minute by minute account. And I felt shite at the end of it. And I said, never again. Because it's, there's bad memories. I've lost good friends. And, I can't remember anything nice on that walk. Yeah, it's always nasty, and how I felt.
Yeah, that's pain and suffering.
Yeah.
What was the thing you done with Donald McIntyre?
Oh, that was hilarious.
In the jungle,
yeah, it was Fred and Joe Pasquale. What happened?
He's a funny bastard.
Yeah, he's
man.
funny. He's a good friend of mine. He was actually on the phone. He I better not say, he had an ailment, and he's been lucky. They've getting on top of it. But no, what it was, Freddie Flintoff had gone to Africa with 2 girls, and they were doing Alone in the Wild. Now, I knew the producer who produced it, so Freddie was off by himself, but the 2 girls wanted to be together. So to balance it out, Dick phoned us up and he said, we're going to French Guiana. He said, we've got Joe Pasquale, Donald McIntyre, but to balance it off, would you go with Donald McIntyre? And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm not bothered. A week in the jungle, no food, no computer, that's great.
Heaven for you.
Yeah, totally heaven. So anyway, we got in there, went in, and set up the camp, showed them how to do it, but they were having the worst rain they'd ever had, so it was flooding everywhere. And then I was like, this is getting hard work with Donald, like, because he had to have a radio on to listen and stuff like that. So I said, right, it's time I should go and I'll set my camp up. He'll be there. He was by himself for 24 hours and he had a breakdown. And they nearly took him out of the jungle because they said we're really worried about him. They had a psychiatrist watching him. And they got on the phone to me. I'd set up my old basher, had a massive fire going. I'm like, that, great, the river's there. And they went, will you go back to Donald? I went, no, I'm not going. I've got a fire going. I'm like, not doing it. But yeah, he was in shit state. But yeah, that was funny. And Joe Pasquale, when he went in, I was watching him because we would have cameras. We would video ourselves, and then that would be picked up by local trackers and then go in. So I'm like watching like Joe Pasquale go in, and he's chatting away. He puts his rucksack down, but he just starts walking, videoing himself. And I said to the producer, I went, fucking hell, he's never going to find his rucksack again. So he's walking, and this is after the fact because we're watching the footage, and he gets there and he's like, oh God, where's my rucksack? Like this. And then he's walking all around it. So we had to send trackers in to get his rucksack to him. But then Joe would just come. He said, I'm really hungry. One day he said, I'm really hungry. He said, I'm thinking of a birthday party I went to. She was an anorexic. No, she was a bulimic. And he said, fuck me, the cake jumped out of her. I'm just like, where do you get them? Like, but no, he's a lovely lad. But yeah, with that sort of stuff, that's second nature to me. But again, Donald did not like being in the jungle.
Yeah. Just before we finish up, brother, one last story. What was the story with the embassy in London when they took hostages?
Oh, well, when the regiment was called in, it was the Iranian embassy, and there was a policeman, journalists, and other members of the staff. So it went on for quite a while, and then they knew there was going to be a military intervention. So it was my old squadron, B squadron, were sent down, and it was the first of its kind. Well, when it all went bang, the guys went in, killed all the terrorists bar one, and all the hostages were saved. The funniest thing that happened there was you put a cordon in whenever you do an operation like that. As soon as the rounds have stopped firing, the building was on fire, by the way, as well. They said, right, we need about half an hour before you start sending body bags in. And what it was, the body bags was for all the kit that these lads were pilfering, like paintings off the wall, these like Arabic jugs and other stuff, and like these big Chinese like vases, which were all expensive. But no, that was iconic, and all of them guys were in the squadron when I joined, and it was the first of their kind because what you call it is a multi-floor entry, where they're going in from different floors and then usually meeting up on the stairwell. So they go in, clear a room, kill the terrorist, get the hostages secured. They then keep the hostages in one safe space, and then when you evacuate the building, their hostages are passed down by other guys who are in there. But yeah, it was classic, and that was a message to the rest of the world about, if you come here, this is what you'll get. And the SAS were the leaders of that type, and it's close quarter battle from the anti-terrorist team.
Tough bastards, aren't they, though?
But I mean,
what do you think of the courses now? Do you know about the courses now?
Oh yeah.
In the 80s and 90s?
Yes, a lot more high tech. Because again, they've got GPSs, that'll tell you you're on the spot, like an inch off the spot. You've got satellites. You've got now these nano drones. Guys have got like cameras, and they can just send it out the window around this building and say, yeah, it's secure. When the big thing for us, in my day in the desert, to find a place to lie up, you just couldn't. Now the lads would get a Reaper drone at 11,000, 12,000 feet, switch on thermal, and then it would pick the, say, 8 guys up, and then that would be on post for 8 hours. And they're talking to it and said, fellas, sleep well. You don't even have to stag on. And there you've got eyes on you, and basically you've got your headset. So if anybody's coming out of the darkness, they'll just say, you've got guys coming in at 200. If it's a big bunch of guys, they'll say, we'll send something down for them, and you're taken out. So the technology they have is phenomenal. but it's the jobs that they're doing keep moving away and changing, and obviously the threat levels of different places. I mean, we saw that guy in Kenya. He's a good friend of mine. He went into that shopping center and he cleared the fucking whole place out. Like, you know, he killed 4 straight away terrorists, and then he orchestrated and led the charge on a 17-hour siege, and did that. So yeah, the guys, when it comes down to the basics, they can still do them, but now they've got the technical stuff going on as well, which makes them even better.
Makes it a bit easier.
Yes, it can make it easier, but the thing they have to remember is, in war, everything can get shut down, and if it goes bad, you still need them basic skills of knowing how to hide, how to live off the land, all the basic stuff. Because the Americans went down the route of, fuck it, we're flying in on a helicopter, there'll be a Black Hawk on the top of this building, we'll have 2 mini birds coming down the street, they'll drop you off at the door, you run in the door, you do the killing, you're out onto the helicopter. But what happens if that helicopter crashes, or that helicopter has to pull off, and you're on your foot, you maybe lose your tracker, and now you've got to survive like I did. So they still need them basic skills.
Yeah. One last question, brother. Do you miss it?
Of course I do.
It's fucking nuts, that, isn't it? Like, the madness, like wars and it's
because I mean, I'm 60 and my head still says I'm 30.
You look great though,
but it's like physically you couldn't do it. But yeah, you miss it because it's the excitement and it's a bit of that adrenaline, you know, from that side.
Yeah, brother, for coming on today and telling your story. You're a great storyteller.
Cheers.
Where can people buy all your books? Just one more time.
Yeah, Amazon or any independent. And if they give Manhunter a read, it's got the best like final attack in there, best shootout ever.
Thank you for coming on. I look forward to, no doubt, I'll get you on for a part 2, because I could have spoke there for hours. But thank you for coming on, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Thanks very much.
God bless.
Cheers.